Good evening. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Kettering City Council. How's that? Today's date is October the 25th, and if you would stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our invocation. O Holy One, thank you for all who serve the Kettering community. Give us enthusiasm for our work and wisdom to make the right decisions. May we remain humble and grateful for the opportunity to lead. Please guide this council so that we may continue to serve our citizens with integrity and purpose, always remembering to be worthy of the responsibilities entrusted in us by our residents. Amen. Thanks so much, Mike, for helping us in the back room there with our TV operator, Mike Soproni. Mayor Lehner does have an excused absence this evening. Mr. Klipaz, would you approve the minutes?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have reviewed the minutes from both the council meeting and the council workshop of October 11, 2022. I found them to be in order, and I move for their approval.
Second.
Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Klipaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Yes. Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisher?
Yes. This evening we have a proclamation that I've asked Mr. Duke to read.
Thank you, Your Honor. Whereas the nation's 120,000 nonprofit arts organizations, the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the nation's 4,500 local art agencies in communities across the country, and the Arts and Humanities Councils of the 50 states and the 6 U.S. jurisdictions and districts have regularly issued official proclamations on an annual basis designating October as National Arts and Humanities Month. And whereas cities and states throughout their local and state art agencies, which represent thousands of cultural organizations, have celebrated the value and importance of culture in the lives of Americans and the health of thriving communities during National Arts and Humanities Month for nearly 30 years. And whereas the humanities help diverse communities across the United States explore their history and culture with the support and partnership of the National Endowment for the Humanities, the 50 states and 6 jurisdictions and district humanity councils, local educational and cultural institutions. And whereas the arts and humanities embody so much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of humankind. And whereas the arts and humanities play a unique role in the lives of our families, our communities, and our country. And whereas despite significant losses due to the coronavirus pandemic, the creative industries continue to remain among the most vital sectors of the American economy, providing new opportunities for developing cities, creating jobs, and economic activity within their own industry and across sectors, and making communities attractive to business development. And whereas the nonprofit arts industry alone generates $27.5 billion in government revenue and $166.3 billion in economic activity annually by organizations and audiences, including spending by attendees to arts and events of $31.47 per person per event, beyond the cost of admission on such items as meals, parking, and lodging, making the arts a vital income source for local businesses. Now, therefore, Peggy Lehner, Mayor of the City of Kettering, Ohio, does hereby proclaim October 2022 to be National Arts and Humanities Month in the City of Kettering, and we call upon all community members to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in our nation and in our local community. Signed, the 25th day of October, 2022.
Shayna, I understand you're going to accept this. It is true.
You,
Very
you'd better, Shayna. That was a long resolution.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You
You
can.
may, ma'am.
Thank you, esteemed City Council and Vice Mayor Fisher. I just want to say that we are so proud to receive this proclamation on behalf of the residents of Kettering. Many of us here tonight understand how tremendous the benefit of the arts is to our community and supporting a healthy environment for all ages. We certainly strive in Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts to provide experiences for all people of all walks of life, and see every day just how powerful that can be. We're lucky to have a facility like Rosewood Art Center. We offer over 400 classes a year, which is kind of amazing. And we also have a public art program and 2 advisory committees that work tirelessly to make sure that the arts are accessible to everybody, including the Kettering Arts Council and the Art and Public Places Committee. As we continue our renovations of Rosewood Art Center, and I'm happy to recognize that I think most of you have been there now at this point, so you're seeing the changes that are happening. We know we are going to be better able to serve our residents moving forward, and we acknowledge that we are in the position we are because of the residents of Kettering and your leadership. So, as evident in the presentations tonight, we know that the arts contribute to why we are proud to call Kettering home, and we thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Shana. Miss Arbor, I understand you're going to be giving us the state of the arts.
I'm going to kick it off.
Excellent.
Hello and good evening, Council. My name is Laura Arbor, and I'm the president of the Kettering Arts Council, and I live in the Southern Hills neighborhood. I'm honored to present to you a review of the arts for Kettering for the past year as we commemorate the National Arts and Humanities Month. As you can see, hopefully on the slide, the 15-member Citizen Advisory Committee, it's comprised of local artists, educators, community leaders, and those who appreciate the arts. Our mission is to provide access to the arts of all ages, encourage passion for the arts, and promote art appreciation in education. Our committee serves with the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department for the City of Kettering. So a few of our accomplishments for 2022. We advocate in support of the arts in Kettering by participating in community events, including the Kettering Block Party, the Art in the Commons, and the Art in the Playground. We also engaged in artists across the United States through the Rosewood Gallery, and in some cases, we hosted those who were traveling. We know how important relationships are, and we're proud we can represent Kettering to a wide variety of artists and the public.
Good evening. I'm Gloria Pugh, and this is my 3rd year as a member of the Kettering Arts Council, the first year being the pandemic year, so that didn't count. 4 years ago, my husband and I moved to Kettering into the David's Retreat condominium community, and prior to my retirement, I was Director of Education for the Dayton Performing Arts Alliance and a lifelong lover of the visual arts. So throughout my career, I was a big advocate for the arts are truly for everyone. And Rosewood illustrates that. The Arts Council is proud to support arts education in the city of Kettering through the Rosewood Arts Center. Already this year, we have touched thousands of participants in classes and workshops. Community members also practice their own work in our studios outside of classes. Since January, we've had 2,500 visits to our open studios, including the popular ceramic studio as well as the dark room and dance studio, to advance their own work and practice. You don't have to take a class to appreciate art, and I'm a prime example of that. Rosewood Gallery is a free contemporary art space featuring artists from around the region, state, and country. The Kettering Arts Council provides assistance in these public events and connects with the guest artists and makes them feel at home while they're here in our Kettering community. Just through September of this year, the gallery has had thousands of visitors and featured the work of over 100 artists working in a diverse range of materials and from across the United States.
Hello there. My name is Penny Miller, and I've been a member of the Kettering Arts Council since 2018. I live over by the Shantz Avenue Bridge, so public art has become pretty near and dear to my heart. Kettering has a long history of supporting public art, and the Art in Public Places Committee helps to guide the collection that Kettering maintains along with advice from input from the Arts Council. The slide you just saw is a picture of the Rosewood Art Center, the new mural that was put in. It's fantastic. It was put in by an artist named Adelie Gagne, and she had 3 interns from Fairmont High School that helped her with that. To come up with the design, she spent time with the community. She spent time with the Dayton Printmakers Cooperative and also time in the Kettering School. So she had input from all of those to help with this design. Speaking of bridges, last week Cliff Garton, who designed the Ridgeway Road Bridge, came into town to do some photo and video for his portfolio. He asked for models. Here is our Kettering Arts Council, several of us were up for the challenge, and we modeled for him, helping him realize that vision. If Kettering Arts Council has a main event, it is Art on the Commons. That's held every August at Lincoln Park. And if you haven't been, you should get that on your calendar right away. This particular, well, it rained, you can tell, this past year. But despite the rain, we had over 100 artists from all over the country and over 10,000 people that visited. The Arts Council is driven by our mission. Our mission is to connect this community with art. And nowhere is that more apparent than at the block party. We painted kids' faces, we handed out scrapbooks and sketchbooks, and we even danced with one of the little kids that came by. So we appreciate your support, and we enjoy being part of Kettering.
I'm the last one. I'm Megan Thomas, and I live in the Marinal Park neighborhood, and I've been part of the Kettering Arts Council since 2020. The legacy of Kettering exists with other nonprofit organizations that have been going strong for decades, such as the Kettering Civic Band, which had performed concerts all summer at Poland Farms, as well as at the Kettering Block Party. The Kettering Children's Choir continues to perform at special events in Kettering, including the upcoming Mayor's Tree Lighting ceremony. You can also catch them next at a Rosewood Holiday Art Festival, which is on Saturday, December 3rd, which we hope to see you all there. Really, in closing, all of these amazing activities and stories that were shared tonight are possible because of the wonderful community we live in. Kettering demonstrates over and over again the commitment to a high quality of life for its residents. As a city, we build opportunities for all our residents to engage in the arts. On behalf of the Kettering Arts Council, we want to thank you, the City of Kettering, for all that you do to support creativity.
Excellent. Thank you. That's very good. So I think we're going to change gears ever so slightly to Ms. Mary Beth. I think you're going to give us an update on the renovation, is what I understand. Your face looks surprised. Oh, no, I'm not surprised. Oh, okay. I'm just making sure. My agenda says.
The amazing Sheena McConville.
So we wanted to just give you an update since it seems like every day something is changing at Rosewood. I'm going to talk a little bit about just the facility itself over the past year. So we can look at the next slide here. Thank you. This is an image I know you're familiar with because I have shared this in the past. But Rosewood Art Center opened in 1985 in a 1965 elementary school building, Rosewood Elementary. And the next slide shows you a similar vantage point of what it looks like as of yesterday, when we finally got our parking lot finished. For any of you who have come over and seen our parking lot in the works, it was a pretty big project, I would say. The mural is continuing to wrap around the building this week. The artists are back and working. The next slide is a rendering of the concept of our front entrance. The front entrance was absolutely pivotal to the whole design, or I should say reinvention of Rosewood Art Center. We really wanted to put a lot of emphasis on accessibility and a much more welcoming experience for our visitors. So the next slide shows that we are on our way to do that. This is minus the public art and the landscaping, which we know are coming soon. But you can see just how close we are to meeting our final goals here. So the next image is one of our empty classrooms. The old 1965 chalkboards and bulletin boards are torn down, and the windows haven't quite been replaced yet. But you can imagine the possibilities of each of these rooms starting from scratch. The next slide is our youth arts studio, which just opened about 2 months ago with the end of our summer camps. And you can really see just how different it is to have those specialized spaces for the art taking place in those rooms. The past 2 months, we've been in our newly renovated north wing. So we've been acclimating to having sunlight come into our office spaces, which we hadn't had before, a gallery that you can see as soon as you walk into the building, a lobby where people can gather and chit chat. And our programs have been going strong, including there's some images here from, we had a bus from the Photo Focus in Cincinnati organization come up with about 50 visitors who were eager to see the art in the gallery. We have a Dayton Metro Library story time. We have art lunch where artists get together and talk about their art over a meal. And then, of course, our amazing staff, which I couldn't forget up in the right corner there. So that is what's going on in a nutshell. And Mary Beth will talk a little bit about what's coming up.
And the project timeline, of course.
Oh, yes.
So as you know, we have moved up the project timeline just a smidge. We're in phase 2 right now, which includes the completion of the dance room was a month ago. We're working on the ceramics wing, the glazing space. The kiln room is almost finished, but the kilns are in phase 1. And then we're also creating the Metals and Glass Studio that will be the first public metals and glass studio in Southwest Ohio that will be accessible to all. So we're super excited about that. So, be 100% increase in participation. And then the final wing is our artist studios, printmaking studio, and then upgrading the 2D, which is the painting and drawing studios, and a couple of the flex classrooms as well. I will just give tremendous accolades to the Rosewood staff. They have been Shane and I have been with this project about 10 or 11 or 12 years. I just spoke with the Rosewood staff yesterday, talking about the history of the evolution of how Rosewood came to where it is today in terms of the renovation, and it's been a great journey. A lot of things that we learned along the way, and I'm glad we're at this spot right now. So the next slide, I want to talk a little bit more about the Kettering Parks Foundation. This is information only for all of you. I know I talked with some of you guys this summer at our event that we had with the Kettering Parks Foundation. It's with great pride that the Kettering Park Foundation partnered with the City of Kettering. City of Kettering, all of us have put $4.8 million into the infrastructure, but the Kettering Park Foundation has come alongside to raise private dollars to pay for the FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, the completion of the interior of the theater, and the landscaping. So those are the parts that the Kettering Park Foundation is raised, and we're at $1.22 million right now. And we just kicked off our public campaign in August, but our real campaign was kicked off about 2 weeks ago, that we sent, the foundation sent out about 6,500 mailers to art advocates around the south suburbs. Next slide. These are our sponsors and our donors. These are our larger gifts. These are what we have been cultivating since 2021. The Community Foundation for Kettering, that was $25,000. Dorwood Optimist was $50,000. Kettering Health was $300,000. Kettering Family Philanthropies was $50,000. Lou and Steve Mason was $300,000. Shevitz Foundation $300,000. Neil and Willie Jean Smalley $25,000. The State of Ohio Cultural Facilities Grants was $25,000. Fred and Alice Wallace Charitable Memorial was $26,000. So right now, to date, we have $1.22 million raised. Next slide. And we have, this is our public campaign landing page. This was created to encourage people not only to give, but to share with their friends. This can be found on our website, and you too can share this page with all of your friends to help us raise money. We are at $555, and this just started on Thursday. So we go to this page every day, very excited about what we're going to see. Actually, it is kind of fun. It's kind of like a lottery game. Hey, come on, rolling them up, roll them up. But we have a lot of people that are very excited about the program. We do get comments. We got our first donation was a comment from a parent whose child went through our Rosewood program. And the comment was very brief, and I'm probably embellishing on their comment just a little bit, but they were explaining how important Rosewood was for their child's education, and now they're at Wright State. So that was our first comment. I don't know who wrote it. Thank you, whoever wrote it. But we're really excited about being able to engage with our donors as well, especially during the public campaign. I think that is the last slide. Maybe? No, there's a few more slides. I don't have it in front of me. It's these are the renderings of our Phase 2 spaces. The ceramic studio. Next slide. Will be the theater. I know some of you saw this, and we're transforming our theater into 150 fixed seats, all ADA accessible, a new sound and lighting system, and a new construction and presentation opportunities on our stage. This will be such a unique spot for us in Kettering, as a lot of our bigger performing art spaces in our city have 400 or 500 seats. This is a 150 seat actual theater with all the support tools to help produce productions. And it will just hit a perfect niche, not only for Rosewood and their children's theater and our dance program, but more importantly for the community as a smaller presentation for lectures and just small presentations. And you can find us on playkettering.org, and I encourage you to continue to go back to the website. And also, if you too want to monitor our public campaign, KetteringParksFoundation.org. Click on the Rosewood campaign, and you and Shana and I can cheer together daily. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, staff. You guys are full of enthusiasm. We appreciate your constant dedication, and lots of kudos to your committee. We really appreciate what you do. I'm a lover of arts, and I know a lot of folks up here are. So we appreciate what you do to enhance our community. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Are you going to have an open house similar to what we had after Phase 1 for Phase 2?
We're probably looking at the end of next year, doing something for the
Whole thing.
if we stay on schedule.
Well, it was a memorable event, the Phase 1, when we got the tour and saw what happened there, and it was amazing. So I can imagine that the next phase. And
The holiday event on the 3rd of December, we'll probably be doing some
Tours.
oh, okay,
So come out to that if you wish.
okay.
Of course, anyone can call anytime, and I'm happy to.
Well, it was a community event. There was a lot of people at that open house. Thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
You too, Mary Beth. Thank you.
Okay. It looks. Do you have something?
I just said, well done. It's really amazing work.
So we're going to change gears ever so slightly now to get an update from St. Clair College. We have with us Adam Merka, the Vice President for External Affairs and the Chief of Staff, and he's going to make a presentation to all of us this evening.
Thank you very
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor, Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I do have a short presentation, and you're welcome to ask questions throughout or wait to the end, whatever you're happy with. City Manager Schwederman has assured me I have 2 or 3 hours to get through this, so let's go ahead and get started. And while we're loading the presentation, I just want to let you know I'm going to give you a general update, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about a specific issue that we're facing, which is issue 10. It's a renewal of Levy B, which is on the ballot on November 8th and will not be a tax increase. It's a renewal of the Montgomery County levy. So here we are. update to the City of Kettering. Next slide, please. So this handsome gentleman is David A. Sinclair, who is our founder. He is the namesake of Sinclair Community College and gave us our motto of find the need and endeavor to meet it. It's what drives absolutely everything that we do. Next slide, please. So we are 136 years young, which means that we are old enough to be relevant, but we've changed enough with the times to adapt to changing needs in the marketplace. But we started out as a job-oriented provider of higher education. David A. Sinclair founded us to help students that he saw that were out of work on the streets of Dayton, Ohio, and that's our mission ever since. Next slide, please. We have 31,000 unique college credit students who study at Sinclair every year. We're the largest college or university other than the University of Cincinnati in all of Southwest Ohio, and nobody educates more people from the city of Kettering than Sinclair Community College does. Next slide. We have 300 degree and certificate programs. Those are all either focused directly on a job for students who get out, or they're eligible for transfer to one of Ohio's universities, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. Next slide, please. So why does Sinclair matter? So 90% of our graduates stay in this community after they graduate. We're a little different than a university. The average age of our students is 29 years old, and so for everyone that's older than that, there's one that's younger. Our students have jobs, they have mortgages, they have kids. They're getting an education to improve their quality of life right here. Next slide, please. And we are an affordable option at a time where higher education is seen as being unapproachable for a lot of people. Sinclair Community College charges less than $4,000 for students who go to school here from Montgomery County. Of that group, over 50% pays less than $1,000 out of pocket after financial aid is applied. This is a good deal, and it changes your life after you get it. Next slide, please. So we took a look at the earnings for students who are in their first year out of Sinclair and then their last year in, and what a tremendous difference. It changes their salary from $22,000 a year to $38,000 a year, all of which was on an affordable tuition price in the first place. So you come to Sinclair, you have an opportunity to improve your life. That difference between $22,000 and $38,000 is the difference between not quite making it and having a real shot at the American dream. So next slide, please. So with roughly flat funding and actually lower enrollment over the course of this time, you can see what a remarkable change our students and our faculty and our staff have made. We've gone from about 1,800 degrees and certificates in 2006 to over 11,000 this past year. So our students are more successful than they've ever been, and all of our students are more successful than they've ever been. Next slide, please. And you know that because our minority student outcomes are also almost 500% better, just almost as good as their majority counterparts. Next slide. And so what happens after they graduate? Yeah, you can educate them, you give them a fair price, you treat them well, you graduate them, that's great. Well, what happens? Well, we tracked their outcomes, and we found that 700 nurses in this community over the past 5 years, 172 dental hygienists, 2,257 computer information systems, and thank God, because I can't do any of that, 710 automotive technology professionals, again, I can't do any of that. All of these folks are filling jobs right here in this community. Next slide, please. And so I mentioned something about transfer earlier. Nearly 3,000 students transfer from Sinclair every year. That's exactly how it's supposed to happen. We like it when students transfer to a university. They've transferred to over 400 institutions across the country, and I think this past year they transferred to every single university inside the state of Ohio. Next slide. And so these are the folks who are skipping that transfer step, they're skipping that university step because they know exactly what they want to do. They are in registered apprenticeships. This is the future of higher education. These are students who are in a job pathway right now. They're getting an opportunity to learn about what they're working on and to work on what they're learning about. They work with a local employer. Next slide, please. And you can see all of these different companies that we have registered apprenticeships with. The student is embedded with the company pays them, they pay part of the tuition costs, they get to try the employee, and they get to fill an in-demand job right here in this community. That's how it's supposed to work, so we're very proud of that. Next slide. So now that I've told you a little bit about Sinclair, what we do, I want to tell you a little bit about Issue 10. Next slide. So we're very proud that we offer one of the lowest tuition rates in the state of Ohio, and we're equally proud that we have one of the highest financial ratings and that our audits are absolutely spotless. So we run the tightest ship we can, but we do need resources in order to drive that change, drive that innovation that I just showed you a little earlier. Next slide. Yeah, this slide's complicated. I'll let you digest all the detail attached to it. But the long and short of it is that we have no debt. We don't borrow money. We don't pay for the privilege of borrowing. If we can't afford it, we don't buy it. That's how we're able to invest a lot of resources that help students and help employers and help this community. Next slide. And so I mentioned kind of what we do. Here's how we do it. About 26%, and I'm sorry that slide is a little mangled, it lost in translation, but about 26% of our budget is from the Montgomery County levy. So all of those resources stay right here in this community. And this levy, Levy B, is the smaller pie piece. That's about 6%. And that levy came up for the first time in 2015. Next slide. Next slide. So for 56 years, Sinclair Community College has had a covenant with the people of Montgomery County. You've trusted us with our levy dollars, and we've put them to work. Next slide. It actually expires in 2023, so this is the first opportunity to renew it. Next slide, and it'll be on the ballot in November of 2022. November 8th, won't raise your taxes. Next slide. And it is, again, a 1 mil renewal it factors everything into property values. And the only thing that changes is it goes from an 8-year levy to a 10-year levy, but the amount of money we receive and the amount of money taxpayers pay remains the exact same. Next slide. We use that for that $9 million both to buy down the cost of tuition, so students pay less in Montgomery County, but we also use it for services and for amenities of the Dayton and Centerville campuses that students can enjoy. Next slide. So here's some of our distinguished co-chairs. You'll note your own, Mayor Peggy Lehner. We're proud to have her on this list. She's been a several-time endorser of the Sinclair levy. Next slide. And we're proud to have been endorsed by the Democrats, the Republicans, the NAACP, the Dayton Chamber, the Dayton Development Coalition. More to come, but next slide. So this is our favorite picture at Sinclair Community College, and here's what I'm going to close with. We call this the big room because it's the only room big enough in all of Montgomery County to hold our graduation. We have several thousand students who graduate every year. Their friends and families come, and your normal college or university graduation is a pretty sedate, dignified, staid gathering. That's not ours. That's not ours. Ours is fun because so many people from our student body, so many of our graduates were told they could never do it. And my president, Steve Johnson, always asks them what he calls their final exam. How many of you were ever told you were not college material? And about 85 to 90% of them stand up. And then he asks them, how many of you are the first in your family to go to college? About 75% of them stand up. And then he asks them, how many of you needed more than 5 years to complete your 2-year degree? Because the majority of our students are part-time students. They're working, they're raising kids while they're going to school. Almost all of them stand. And then he asks 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. And you may remember there was a gentleman at the beginning of this section who you saw in a cap and gown to lead off the issue 10. He was our longest serving student. He took over 30 years to graduate. Wow. That's what support from Levy B and the Montgomery County levies entitle us to do, is to change people's lives. It changes people's lives right here in the community and it helps us fill the big room. Thank you so much for your time, and I would be pleased to answer any questions you might have, even from you, Mr. Schwieterman.
Questions?
I would just like to say it's impressive when you can get the endorsement from the Democrats and the Republicans. You guys are doing something right over there.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
And I definitely partook. I was a Sinclair student, so.
You were?
Very, very good. I don't know that I was 30 years, but I was more than 5.
I've
you well.
I've taken a couple classes at Sinclair. I was at Sinclair last night, actually.
All right, well, then you're an alumni. If you've ever taken a class, we count that as alumni, because that means, we do. That means we helped you get where you want to go, so.
Thank you, Adam. We appreciate your time.
I did want to make a comment about the registered apprenticeship program.
Yes, sir.
That looks like a great program and a lot of participation from different business. Do you still have the co-op program in addition to that, or is that sort of like a co-op program?
Yes, we do. We do have co-ops. We do have internships. This particular certification through the Department of Labor entitles these students to receive special funding. So that's what a registered apprentice is it opens up additional pathways. But we're all for work-based learning. So whatever helps a student get where they want to go. And yes, we have a lot of students who co-op.
It's been last month, quite a few of us went around and visited various businesses in the Stroop Road area. and every one of them talked about needing help and not being able to get help. Do you have a lot of emphasis put on that, trying to get people matched up with jobs that are available around town, even if they're not in co-op or apprenticeship programs?
Yes, sir. So everything I mentioned was about our 31,000 students who are like your traditional 4-credit model. I'm a college kid. I'm trying to figure out what to do. That's that 31,000. We have about between 10 and 15,000 that are not in that category that I just mentioned, that are custom training students. So I'm an employer. I need my employees to know how to do critical thinking, or I want them to have a certification. I don't care if it's financial aid eligible. I just need help now. Those are the folks who do that. So that's kind of on demand. We are, with 31,000 students, we kind of end up doing a little bit of everything. And we do the best we can to steer students towards careers where we know that they can have that meaningful job. Ultimately, it is their choice, but there's not a day that goes by that we don't work with at least one employer in every field. The biggest problem we have, the employers can't get the people, and neither can we. I don't have an output problem. You could see by the hockey stick charts I showed you that we're way better at producing graduates than we ever were. I don't get enough of them in the door in the first place. So if we don't get them, we can't change their lives. But yes, we're working with employers in every field we possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for
Great.
your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We have no public hearings this evening. We're now at the time where we take public comments on legislation. Anyone wishing to speak before council with comments or new information about legislation on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Speakers must state their name and address, and comments must be addressed to council. If you have any comments that are not about legislation on tonight's agenda, there'll be an opportunity for those to be heard later in the meeting. Seeing no movement from the audience, we will go ahead and go to, there are no second reading ordinances, so let's jump right into resolutions, Mr. Kleepass.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a resolution this evening authorizing the city manager to enter into one or more grant agreements for demolition of a structure on the property located at 1301 East Stroop Road in Kettering. The estimated cost is up to $25,000. Those funds are available. It's requested by the Planning and Development Department to move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This authorization will allow us to enter into a demolition grant with the property owner at 1301 East Stroop. 1301 East Stroop is at the corner of Stroop and Marshall. It's the northeast corner. The demolition grant is very similar, almost identical to the Wilmington Pike demolition grant program that the city's had for a number of years. We will pledge up to $25,000 or 50% of the demolition to this project. So if the demolition comes in at $7,500, we'll have 50% of that number. We are working obviously in partnership with the current landowner. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisher?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for an FM Global Fire Prevention Grant. This is being requested by the fire department. And there's no cost. I move for approval.
Second.
Chief Robbins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This resolution will allow the fire department to apply for an FM Global Fire Prevention Grant. The grant is for the purchase of smoke detectors. These smoke detectors are given to our residents who, while on a service call, it was determined they have no working smoke detectors within their residence. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisher?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept an OVI task force grant from the Ohio Department of Public Safety. The estimated amount is $15,000 and is for the Special Grants and Programs Fund. Move for approval.
Second.
Chief Protzman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is a $15,000 grant offered through Montgomery County through the OVI Task Force from the Ohio Department of Public Safety. This grant will reimburse the city for overtime expenses used for officers operating a vehicle under the influence enforcement. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall? Vice Mayor Fisher?
Yes.
I have a resolution requesting that the city make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Kettering, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. The estimated cost is $145,600, and this is being requested by the Finance Department. Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is a supplemental appropriation for our fiscal year 2022. There are two items on the appropriation this evening. The first is $130,600, which would be the appropriation for the estimated expenses for the initiation of a strategic plan provided by the consulting firm Planning Next. The next item would be the appropriation of the $15,000 previously mentioned for the OVI grant. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisher?
Yes. We have no ordinances in first reading. Ms. Kozinski.
Vice Mayor Fisher, we have no certifications or petitions this evening.
Mr. Schwederman, your report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a few items for you on the Kettering Community Update, and we will start with the announcement or the continuation of the Medicare open enrollment. So annually, we help our residents, assist our residents through Kettering Connection with the Medicare open enrollment process. You can contact Vicki at the Kettering Connection at 296-3330 to schedule an appointment. When appointments begin, or the period for enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Our leaf pickup program is currently underway, started last week, and we've been moving through the city, and we're currently in District 7. This is just a reminder that we're only raking our leaves to the curb. They do not have to be raked into the street, just adjacent to the street, and it is not for other debris, branches, and things of that matter. Those can be taken to our yard debris center on Woodman Center Drive. If you'd like to know where we're at in the collection process, you can call the leaf hotline at 296-2472. The police department will be participating in the National Drug Take Back Day, which will be this Saturday, October 29th from 10 to 2 at the Kettering Police Department here at 3600 Schroyer Road. Just a reminder to our residents that it is for pills, not liquids or syringes. Beggars Night in Kettering and throughout the region will be Monday, October 31st from 6 to 8. So please remember that as you're driving through town that night so that we can keep the event safe for everyone. And finally, I believe our last slide is just a reminder that daylight savings ends at 2 a.m. on Sunday, November the 6th, and it was not our last slide. This is our last slide. Just a reminder that the city will be celebrating Veterans Day on November 11th at 11 a.m. at our Veterans Plaza at Delco Park. We'll have about a half-hour ceremony at that time, and we encourage all of our residents and community to come by for that event. Vice Mayor, that is all I have for the community update. Be happy to answer any other questions.
Questions? Okay, it is now time to come down if you'd like to speak to City Council. From the podium, you have a 5-minute limit. You're asked to state your name and your address. Anyone? Seeing no movement, let's go ahead and go to committee reports. Mr. Klepass?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, thanks to everyone on council who attended the annual meeting of Sister Cities Committee on October the 19th. That committee, works hard at what they do, and they really appreciate the support of staff and City Council. And I know that for those of you that were there, you heard Al Fullenkamp say that. But he also talked about a couple of the events that will be coming up in 2023. Steyr Austria has got a big year planned in the city. And because of that and supporting it, they want our adult group to come there. They want our students to come there. They want the Kettering Civic Band to come there. And they want the Kettering Children's Choir to come there. So there may be a lot of folks from the Kettering area visiting Steyr, Austria this year. I sure hope so anyway. Then last Saturday was Make a Difference Day. I did stop by a couple locations. And I know some other folks might say something about it. I just want to mention that both at Christ Church making cards for veterans and nursing homes and facilities, there was several Kettering Kiwanis folks there. When I went over to the park at Van Buren, there was some Kettering Kiwanis folks there also. And it made me think back to when we started the lunch program years ago during the summer. Kettering Kiwanis was the first ones in the community that stepped up to support that, and that's been 10, 12 years ago. And here they are still being a big supporter of our youth. And they don't have a lot of folks that are in Kettering Kiwanis, but they sure do step up for that, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure we all do. And last, I always mention supporting our local business, and I usually think about shop our local business. And tonight when Sinclair talked about students and jobs, it made me think, is there a way that we can support our Kettering businesses by finding them some help too? So keep your eye out when you're shopping in Kettering to see if there's any help wanted and try to find somebody to help them out with. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Hall?
Just want to give a shout out to the Firebirds who are playing this Friday. Somehow it's one of the first playoff games that we've hosted, and you can get your tickets online. Hope to see you there. It's this Friday versus Wayne High School. And a big win for the biking and pedestrian community. There's a connector path now between Centerville and has safer access over I-675, and it's nearly done and can be used. And just lastly, want to remind everyone to stay safe on Halloween night, and for the kids out there, including mine, help them to be careful when they're crossing the street, and if you're driving, keep a lookout for all the kids that are going to be out this coming Monday. That's it.
Sir?
Nothing to report this week.
First, I want to say that on October 13th, the Leadership Academy had our Government Day, and I want to thank Mark Schwederman and Steve Bergstresser, along with the rest of city staff who attended and spent your time with the class. It was very informative. You guys did a great job, as always, so thank you very much. Tony, thank you so much for what you said about Kiwanis. Make a Difference Day was fantastic, and I had the pleasure of cleaning up some yards with a couple of my fellow Kiwanis members, along with my son and my father-in-law, which was a good event, and we did a lot of good, and I would encourage everyone to head over to the Van Buren Park and check out the rain garden that was installed. It's very cool. Jack, I think you helped with that. And Bruce, your wife, I believe, was part of that.
She was.
And speaking of Sinclair, last night the Board of Community Relations had the honor of having a private tour of the Our American Journey exhibit, and it's a collection of artifacts detailing the Black experience in America. It is just enthralling and amazing, and they have some amazing pieces there. I would encourage everyone to go, and I want to thank Michael Carter at Sinclair, the Chief Diversity Officer, who arranged that tour for us. And that's all I have.
Mr. Duke?
Thank you, Your Honor. Tony, the Sister City dinner was great. Thanks to you and the committee, they did a terrific job. And we need to start recruiting now to get some of us on council to get over to Steyr this summer. That would be a great trip. Oh, Jackie's going.
Pick me.
All right, there you go. The only other thing I want to share, the Arts Council, they talked about the Ridgeway Bridge and how the artist was in town 2 weekends ago, and I was fortunate enough to take part in the filming, if you will, of what they wanted for the Ridgeway Bridge. I was shocked to find out that they were here 3 days. There were probably 15 or so folks that were involved. Mr. Bergstresser was holding ladders and lights, and people were behind the bridge with backdrop lights at night. And I never knew how they actually made these kinds of productions. But I know I was on my scooter with my wife, and we walked back and forth, literally a foot and a half, just like that, for about an hour while they filmed with a drone. And it's very interesting. The folks you saw on the bench on the TV tonight, those folks sat there for a good 2 hours, Saturday evening, afternoon and evening, and it was cold. And they sat there that whole time to get that, I assume, one shot. But it was an amazing experience. We're going to get to see those, and that'll be a promotion for this community about that bridge down the road. So I just wanted to share that. That's all I have, Your Honor. It was a fun time.
I just want to give a shout out to our streets department. I happened to be walking the neighborhood and caught them just at the right time as they were out there. And God love them. Our leaves are so dry right now. They were just, the dust was terrible. And so they truly are doing the yeoman's work for us in our city. And so if you see them, give them a wave, give them a thumb up, because they're working hard to do great things for our city. I also want to remind all of our residents is before our next council meeting, it's time to vote. So please, please get out and make your voice be heard through voting. So with that, if there's nothing else, our next city council meeting will be on November the 8th, which is voting day, and this meeting's adjourned.